Let's continue here tonight. The man alleged to have murdered two 9-year-old girls from Albertinia in the Western Cape made his first court appearance today. The bodies of Sharon, Arries and Jacorien, Vaaltyn were found in a yard last week. For more on the story, we're joined by social justice activist Lorenzo Davis. Lorenzo, good evening to you. Thanks for your time. Of course, it's always concerning when we see this level of violent crime targeted especially towards minors.
Yes, Kathy, good evening. It is certainly another dark period in South Africa's history that we are confronted with the death of two children, 9 and 10 years old, murdered in the most brutal way. And again, Kathy, everything points to that our system is failing our children in particular. This is a complete breakdown of the system. The system can no longer offer the children the protection that they need in our communities.
The reality is, for a long time now, the vulnerability of children seems to have been almost pushed aside because the way in which the matters are taken up, or even the conscientization just in society in general about the high levels of violence against children, seem to go largely unattended.
Yeah, it is unattended, it is unserviced, it is not a priority. Despite the pronouncements by the state, the actions on the ground show that there isn't that kind of deep attention paid to the plight of children who are extremely vulnerable, and especially in our townships and poorer communities. We live within a society where people in parole, out on parole, return to these communities and they reoffend. Just in the first quarter of this year, 555 people who are out on parole committed crimes again. And so we have a reoffending cycle that is at work within our communities and that preys on these vulnerable children.
There will be those who argue that in especially violent neighborhoods, of course, children then also become victims of that violence in areas such as those in the Western Cape and in Cape Town that we're talking about tonight. There have been bigger problems more generally when it comes to trying to bring crime under control.
Yeah, what we have is that we have a very, very poor prosecution system. We have a very, very poor incarceration system. In fact, our prisons, we know, are run not by correctional services, but by gang cultures. And we have a very bad parole system. So the entire conduit through which an offender must go does not offer rehabilitation or security or safety for the public. It actually just takes the person through the pipeline, and instead of preventing and rehabilitating that person, it introduces the individual to deeper crime. That person with deeper crime, after 2 years, 5 years, or 10 years, is re-released into society and then is trained to reoffend, not to be rehabilitated. And so the entire system is in the process right now of collapsing. We have criminals that go into the system and come out of the system with a deeper culture of criminality, not a rehabilitated mindset.
So then how can we be better protecting the country's children?
One of the things is that we need a far sharper police service and a criminal justice system that supports that police service. We often hear the president, the ministers urging the public and the communities to be vigilant and to offer safety to children and to come together to point out criminals. Let's be clear about this, Kathy. The community is there to augment the police services. The community should not be the first line of defense. You can't have people who are already brutalized by poverty, hunger, and all kinds of chaotic circumstances to still also be the first line of defense when it comes to criminality. You must have a far more efficient police service as that first line of defense. The community can augment that, but they cannot lead that. They cannot put their bodies on the line each time. We must have a police service that is uncorrupted, not infiltrated by gangsters, not losing dockets, so that the community can be safe and tell themselves, yes, we will support the police. We will augment what they are doing. But right now, we have a police service that is absent. You wait a day, 24 hours, 48 hours before they arrive on a crime scene. So again, I come back to my point is that we don't have a system that can protect children any longer, and we must admit that.
Lorenzo, what is the work that needs to be coming out of families as the first barrier line of protection for children?
Well, I mean, obviously stronger homes and stronger families is an important fabric of a safe society. But let me say this, when people go out and families go out, or heads of families go out to look for work, go work as domestic workers, go work on farms, step out of their homes, there's no one there to look after their children. And so I've advocated over the last few years and said that we must have, where communities need it in terms of a safety protocol, we must have free ECDs, early childhood centers, for families to take those children to. We must have. It's a fundamental fabric of the safety of the child, where those who are not of school-going age and those who come home from school to empty homes or non-parented homes go to a safe place funded by the state, which is either an early childhood development center or a youth center where they are cared for by professionals. The fact that our children come home from school to houses that don't have adults in it till 6, 7 o'clock at night, that's the risk. So families can protect the children while they are there. But when kids come from school or when they are leaving school, that's when the problem starts. And unless we have a system that offers viable ECD and youth care to children after school and during school hours, we're not going to solve this problem, because kids that are out on the streets are entirely vulnerable and at the mercy of those who wish to exploit them.
Social justice activist Lorenzo Davids will leave it there for tonight.